Hello everyone, I am Mayuri and I'll be your host for the day. With Selva, Santana, Mandy and Subitsa, I co-lead MyDB of Business Growth. First and foremost, I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us for our ninth edition of my webinar. Without further ado, please allow me to introduce our speaker for the day. Madhavan and Praveen, MyDBOps Associate Database Consultant, are here to demonstrate MySQL security on AWS RDS. With 3 years of experience on working in MyDBOps, they have honed their skills in not only solving tedious database issues, but also in writing blogs and hosting webinars and meetups on a larger scale. Over to you, team. We are ready when you are ready.
Yeah, thanks, Mayuri, for the detailed intro and the warm welcome. I will take it further.
Sure.
So, can anyone confirm if the screen is visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, thanks. So, good morning for everyone. Thanks for giving a presence in the weekend. Let's go into the presentation. So, today we are going to see about MySQL security future. So, today we are going to see about MySQL security on AWS RDS. So, I'm Praveen. Myself, I'm associate database consultant. Along with me, Madhavan is there. He is my colleague, and he is also associate database consultant. So, about myself, so I am a tech speaker as well as a certified 5.7 DB. I'm as mentioned, so I'm associate database consultant working in both the cloud-based services as well as on-premises. I've dealt a large area of data, more number of TBs in the cloud-based services as well. So have a expertise idea in the cluster as well as the load balancing.
Yeah, very good morning to everyone. So I'm Madhavan from MyDBOps. I'm working in MyDBOps for past 3 years. I'm interested in databases like MySQL and AppScore and its ecosystem. I'm interested in learning cloud databases, and I'm a certified MySQL 5.7. I have worked in cloud-based environments.
Thanks, Madhavan. About MyDBOps, so we are a support-based company, and we are supporting top open source databases, and we have 50 plus members as a team, and also we are having 500 plus happy customers in the first 5 years of operation, and we are proud to say that we are AWS partner as well as PCI certified organization. Basically, we are providing two types of services: managed services as well as the consulting services. So, and also we are supporting 24/7 services as well for MySQL, MongoDB, and Postgres. In first 5 years of operation, we have gained 500 plus happy customers, and here are the few major customers that we are supporting, and also we have a list of customers all over the globe. So before entering into the core presentation of the topic, first of all, we need to know why the security is needed. Because nowadays all the data is getting digitalized now. So when compared to older days, in this era, we are mostly converting into, we are getting adapted into digitalization, as well as all the data is getting stored in the cloud-based services. So if any breaching has been occurred in the data, then it will be a total collateral damage for the organization. Because even a single data or a bunch of data has been leaked means, then it is totally a asset psyching of the organization. Then the trust and the organization name will be get total damaged, because even a data has been leaked means anyone can use it in anywhere, and also it is not a perfect one for the data, allowing a data leakage, because your data is totally containing information of all the required details of a personal one, So we should prevent the data leaking. So at that time, we should take care of the security issues as well. So these are the few list of attacks that can be occurred. First one is a server level attack, then data breaching. So anyone can, if any user has unwanted access or any user has been created with unrequired privileges, means even with that, the data breaching can occur. Either he can get the data, use it at anywhere, or the personal data leakage will be occur. So the file system leakage, which means not only by firing the query we can get the data, even at the Linux level or at the OS level, we can able to move the total directory to another server, and we can able to up the server with that directory. So at that time our total data will be get exposed to the unwanted one. So even that leakage will occur. Then defined credential, which means we are using a defined credential either in an application or else in any cron. We are using a defined one. Anyone can view it, and anyone can get the credential of that. So even the leakage can occur in that way as well as. So we are storing the unwanted data in S3 bucket or cloud, even in a local storage. We are storing it, but we can't be sure whether it is protected or not, because anyone can move that dump and restore it there in the local server, means easily they can get our data. So we need to prevent it out. So now going to the agenda of the presentation. So these are the list of things that we can do it to prevent the above mentioned issues. That's mean for a data breaching, we can do the we can restrict by network level security. That's mean to avoid unwanted connection to the DB by restricting the network IPs. Then IAM user. So unwanted user means IAM user will have only the credential, as well as with the same credential that we are accessing the console, we can able to access the DB servers as well. So by this, we can prevent the unwanted access to the DB, as well as if any person has fired any query, either accidentally or purposefully, we can able to monitor it by audit log. For audit purpose or for monitoring a user activity, we can enable it and monitor about the queries that they are firing. So to prevent the file level leakage, we can do KMS encryption. So because it will do the encryption process in the file system, and when going, if they are moved to the new server, means they need to decrypt it out. For that, they need the original key to decrypt. So at that time, we can prevent this file system leakage. Then secret manager. Whenever we are using a defined credential in application or cron, we can, instead of that, we can use the secret manager, which will do the regular rotation of the user credentials, so that we can be able to avoid the defined user credential, and we can use this rotation based. So as I mentioned, not sure whether the dump is getting leaked out or not. So at that time, either we are pushing to S3, means if we are storing in the bucket and the bucket is publicly accessible, means at that time also the data leakage will be there. To avoid that, we can enable it as a private one, as well as we can do the encryption on the bucket level to avoid the leakage via S3 buckets. So these are the list that we can able to protect it from the AWS side, which are the service they are providing. We can do it in on-premises as well. So today, in most of the data are migrating to cloud basis. So majorly we have considered the things that we can do in cloud, but we can able to do it in on-premises as well. By enabling the MariaDB audit log, we can able to do it, or using TDS encryption, we can able to encryption the file system. So it is possible in on-premises as well. So going to the network security, that's mean virtual private cloud VPC. So by applying a VPC to an instance, or while creating an instance, we can able to make a boundary for that instance. So we can able to gain the network security, as well as the segregation of IP. Instead of using all the IPs, we can able to make it as a private one, as well as we can able to split as a subnet, as well as the security group, which means we are determining the inbound outbound rule of the server. Yeah, so here the VPC is creating a boundary for your network. That subnet is the organization organizing of the IP ranges instead of using a complete set of IPs. So as well as we need to make sure we are using the private subnet instead of a public one to prevent the unwanted access. And also, if you are handling multiple projects and the IP should not be getting interfered, means we can use a different VPC and prevent the interlink of the projects. Then security group, we can able to determine the IP which should be get entered in the database, and also it should be get outbound of the database. So we can able to restrict by the security group. If an application is running in a box, we can mention the box as a inbound and outbound with the port opening of 3306, which is the default one. We can able to change it, but the only thing is we can able to customize that what port should be opened and for which IP. We can able to restrict that and provide the only the required access for that server. So yeah, so as I explained detailed earlier, the same thing. The security group and the subnet, it will be get splitted into the category. For subnet, we can use it for different the IP ranges for the different purpose. The security group is determining the what are the IP should be get entered, and it should be outbound with the required port privileges instead of publicly allowing all the IPs to get insert and all the IP to outbound. Instead of allowing that, it is a better practice to have only the restricted IP whitelisting. Yeah, going forward to identity and access management, which means for the user creation in the console level in AWS. So we can able to use the same console access with the same user and the credential of it. We can able to log in the DB server as well. So not only the console access, we can able to use the same access for the DB servers. So role means a consolidated one of the policies. That's when multiple policies got applied in a single role, and that role can be applied to an individual user or a group. Group instance, we are merging multiple users. That means if the number of DBAs or the number of DevOps or there, means we can able to determine all the person in a single group, and we can provide only the required privileges instead of providing all the console access to all the persons. Then a password policy, it is based upon the organization. If we can able to decide the strengthening of a password, and also the password expire policy. Going forward to programmatic access, which represent if you are going to use the CLI, AWS CLI, means at that time we required a programmatic access. So it is a demo of user creation. I have created a user named Praveen, and also I doesn't provide the programmatic access at the beginning itself. So if needed, means we can able to modify it. So I doesn't provided that. Then I have provided the console access. Then going forward to console password, which means the auto, we can there is a two category where it can be auto generated one or custom password. If it is an auto-generated one, the password policy will be there and it will be get strengthened. If it is a custom password, means we are going to provide the password for the user. So we need to make sure that we are provided a strengthened password for that. 8x4, that means a capital letter, small letter, symbol, as well as number. All the combinations should be there to make the password as a strengthened one. Going to the permission, that's mean as I mentioned, a user should have a permission to access the required one. Either we can add the user to a group to get the role to be applied, or we can able to copy the existing user policy to this user, or we can directly attach only the required policy to the user. Instead of giving all the access, we can able to only provide the required policies to that user. So I have used the auto-generated password. So once the user is created, it has been given an auto-generated password, which we can download as a CSV format, or we can able to send it via email as well. Yeah, going forward to ARN, so Amazon resource name, which will be get allocated for each and the individual services. That means for a user level or role or any of the process, the ARN unique number will be get assigned for that one. So ARN indicates the process. Then AWS is the provider name, and IAM is the process that I'm using, IAM service that I'm using. So it is represented as a IAM. Then it is the account ID of my user. So that will be shared here. Then it will be represent the account. That means whether it is a user level or role level or group, what it determines, it represented will be get here. And after that is the name of the resource, either the group name or a name of the user or the name of the role. It will be get represented this. Yeah. So coming into the main picture. So how we can able to access the DB with the IAM credential. So for that, we need to first enable the IAM authentication while either creating the DB instance or while creating the RDS, or while we can able to enable it after creating by modifying the instance. So we need to enable the IAM authentication. Then IAM user should have RDS DB connect policy. That policy should be there to make the connection by using the IAM user. Then we are going to make the connection via any EC2 box or any local level. So for that thing, we need to assume the same RDS DB connect policy to the EC2 role as well. So by this, we can able to make the connection. So anyway, we are going to generate a token system. That means by using CLI command, we will use the create the token. By using that token, we are going to connect with the DB server. So for that, the box should be configured with CLI. Yeah. Then the user should be get created in the DB. So suppose that we need to provide only the required permission. So if a user is going to only the read, means there is no need of providing any write access or all privileges for that user. So it is mostly suggestible to give only the required permission for that user instead of providing the complete access. Yeah. Then we are going to generate the authentication token by using generate DB auth token. So once we have fired this CLI command, we will get a token for that user. It is like similar to a OTP concept. So by using this token, we can able to log in the DB server. But the thing is, the validity is only 15 minutes. That means the token is valid only for the 15 minutes. We need to log in within that. So if a user got logged in and the session is open, means that is fine. That means the connection will be there. If they have logged out and login, means we need to the token should be recreated once again. So it is like providing a temporary access to the DB server for that particular user. So we can use this mechanism for a temporary access to the DB, because the token will be generated and will be get shared, and it will be get expired in with 15 minutes if they doesn't use it. If they are trying to re-log in, means we need to generate the token again. So it is like providing a temporary access for that user. Yeah, we need to paste that generated token in the password. So the DB will be get logged in by using that token. Yeah. Going forward to audit log. So as I mentioned, so we should monitor which user is firing which command. So whether it is purposeful or either any accidental one. If we are going to debug means we need to find it out which query has been fired at which time by which user. So at that time, totally audit log will be so helpful for any debugging as well as for any audit purposes, for to identify which user is logging in more and how much of query they are, what type of query they are firing. So that all the details we can get it from the audit log. So yeah, we can able to monitor only the required user. So instead of monitoring the system user or anything, we can able to monitor only the system user, as well as only the what type of query. That it depends upon the cases, whether we need to monitor DDL or DML, or only the required type of query can be logged in. So currently we can able to, while creating, we can able to enable the audit option. Now ODS has Amazon has deprecated 5.6. So I have mentioned the 5.7. We can able to modify 5.6 server and we can enable the audit log as well. So when going with MySQL 8, the version should be greater than 8.0.25. Yeah. To enable the audit log, the option group should be there, or the audit plugin should be enabled in the option group. So first we need, if the option group is already there, fine, we can enable it in option group. So if option group is not there, means we need to create a separate option group for that, and we need to add this audit plugin in the option. We need to enable the audit plugin in the option group. By default, it will go with the MariaDB audit plugin. Same, yeah, we can use it in on premises as well. Not only cloud, we can use that MariaDB audit plugin. We can able to use the audit plugin in on premises server as well. So by enabling the option group, the audit plugin in the option group, we can use that option group in the ODS creation or Aurora creation. Either we can use it while creating, or after creation we can modify it. So for audit plugin, we doesn't require a downtime to enable it. So when discussing about the audit log, as I mentioned, we have a list of options to determine what types of queries should be get logged in, as well as what type, which user should be logged in. That details we need to give, because there is no need of monitoring the system user or unwanted users, because it will generate the log file, higher size will be there. So we can determine based on the case, and we can decide whether we need to monitor DML or DDL, or just the connection process we can monitor it. And also we can exclude the user which are not need to be monitored. Then file rotation size, then file rotation should happen or not. Then whether we have enabled the audit log, but the audit logging is not enabled, means we should enable that as well to get the user login details. So yeah, in ODS it will maintain only a single day of record. If anything happened a week back or 2 days back, we can't able to get the log details. Otherwise we need to pull the log and store it in our local using CLI, or we need to go with that way only. For that also we need a programmatic access. So instead of that, we can enable a CloudWatch exporter for that logging. Either a slow log, error log, or audit log, general log, all the logging can be exported to CloudWatch, where we can, when going to a CloudWatch, obviously backend the S3 bucket will be there. So from that we can able to view the GUI representation. That means if you need to view a 10 days back record, means we can able to view it via the GUI. And also we can, the retention is a adjustable one. From a single day to 10 years of maximum, we can keep the retention. So by modifying, if you are going to create an instance, means no issues, under log exporter option, we can able to give a checkbox, and we can give a tick mark to enable what are the logs need to be exported to CloudWatch. Otherwise we need to modify the instance under under log exporter session. We need to checklist the boxes that which are the logs should be get monitored, that will get exported to CloudWatch. So once we have done with that, the configuration under configuration setting, we can able to see that CloudWatch logs, and I have enabled only the audit log. So here it is giving audit log. So when we have clicked this option, it will pop up a new window and it will give you a GUI representation of that. So by default, we have a time range of 1 minute, 30 minutes, a hour, and the 12 hour. We can able to customize. So as I mentioned, the retention is up to 10 years. We can able to customize and get the data. So it will give what time the user has been logged in and which user and which query has been it is fired. Either we can view it in the GUI or if needed as a file means we can able to download it as a CSV one. Sorry. You have it is if you need to change the retention of the audit log in the CloudWatch exporter under CloudWatch, there is a log group. So this is my instance identifier name, and this is the log that I have generator. That means the log that I have enabled for CloudWatch exporter. So we need to click the edit retention setting to decide how much days of retention we need to maintain in the CloudWatch. Because when going to S3 bucket, only a 5 GB of data will be get stored as a free one. So post that it will be comes under a pricing category. So if you are keeping your 10 years of record or 6 years of record, the generation of logs will be higher and the storage pricing will be there. So based upon our convenience, we can either keep a month or a week of record in the CloudWatch by setting the retention value in the log groups. Yeah. So from this slide, my colleague Madhavan will take over this.
Yeah, thanks Praveen for handovering for posting further slides. Let me take it. Very good morning to everyone. So let's see about a KMS encryption in AWS. So basically, KMS encryption is protecting our data using cryptographic keys. So we are encrypting those data using KMS keys. So KMS keys can be created. We can create the KMS keys and we can manage the KMS keys using who's having administrative privilege. So those can be created and managed. We can give a separate user for viewable access. So those users who have access, they can able to decrypt our data. So these KMS keys we can either keep in specific region or in across the region or with other AWS accounts. So it is a disk level encryption. It is not a MySQL level encryption. So that we can avoid the file system leakage. So let's see its future. So there are two types of keys it is supporting. One is symmetric keys, another is asymmetric keys. So symmetric and asymmetric keys you will see in further slides with the detailed explanation how it will work. So it is keep providing a retention policies for the KMS key rotation. So we can rotate our KMS key in a regular order. So it is providing two types of managed services keys. One is customer managed keys, which customer need to provide for encrypting the data, and another one is AWS managed keys, so which is handled by AWS support team for encrypting the data. So let's see about detail in symmetric as well as asymmetric keys. So symmetric algorithm uses secret keys for both encryption as well as for decryption. So advanced encryption standard comes with three types of bit keys. One is 128, 192, and 256. Three types of bit keys we can able to encrypt the data using GCM mode. So asymmetric algorithm uses public key for encryption and private key for decryption, and it is using ECC algorithm for the encrypted the data. So this is a flow diagram how encryption will work. So we are giving plain text for encryption. Based on that, either symmetric algorithm or asymmetric algorithm, it will encrypt the data with the key, and it will store it, convert it as a ciphertext. So ciphertext is nothing but the output of the encrypted data. So similar way we can decrypt our data using decryption algorithm, but the key should match with the encrypted keys. If it is not matched, we can't able to view the data. as I mentioned earlier, KMS is AWS is providing key rotation policies as well. So we can make a retention policies for the customer managed keys as a retention of 1 year and AWS managed keys as a retention of 3 years. So once the key is rotated, we need to decrypt the, how we are going to decrypt the old data means the older key will be keep in AWS console for the decryption logic to decrypt that old data. So based on that key, we can able to decrypt that older data. So let's see how to create KMS keys. As I am going to create symmetric keys, so I have selected symmetric type and I have chosen KMS and I am going to store those keys in a single region and I have given the respective alias name for my encryption keys. So I have given administrative privilege for the left side snapshot. So those users can able to create and manage the encryption keys in KMS, and in right side snapshot usage privilege. So this user can able to use the KMS keys for the decryption purpose. So as I mentioned, asymmetric is using public key for encrypting the data. So the public key will be present in AWS console itself. So we can get that key from the respective from the public key options. So let's see how we're going to create instance with the encryption with the hands-on. So as I have created two master and as well as replica. Now why we are creating temp replica means as we are going to take a snapshot from based on a snapshot only, we need to encrypt the data. We can't encrypt directly. So to make a consistent one, we're getting on replica server from the master. First, we need to stop the replica. Before stopping, we need to note the respective position from where it was stopped. So this is my replica server. So already I have stopped the slave and I have noted the respective positions. So after stopping the slave, I'm going to encrypt the, I'm going to take the snapshot. So how to take snapshot? We need to choose the respective replica and in action button, we can able to take snapshot. As I already taken snapshot and I have stored it just now before this session starts to avoid the lesser time. So once the snapshot is created, how we are going to encrypt that snapshot? We need to click on that snapshot which is unencrypted and click on the copy. So we can give the identifier name. And we can choose the encryption option. We can choose either AWS managed encryption keys or custom managed AWS keys. So here I am choosing custom managed AWS keys, which I have created. So next, need to proceed for the snapshot. So once you have mentioned, it will you will see the option like creating, and it will store the respective process for the encryption. So it will take 2 to 3 minutes of time for the encrypted. So let's not delay our time. So it will take 5 minutes. Suppose that we will see its limitation on AWS encryptions. So encrypted data will have the encrypted backup. We can't able to create the unencrypted backup. So encrypted master can able to create only the read replica of encrypted replica only, not the unencrypted replica. Encrypted to non-encrypted replica we can't able to configure. So the data will only viewable after decrypting the data using KMS keys. It is a paid service in AWS. So we need to store the older keys also. It is a chargeable one. So the snapshot is completed. Let me share that Safari browser. So as you see, the snapshot is completed with encrypted. You can validate whether it is encrypted or not using my backup is encrypted with the KMS keys which I have mentioned. So let's create the instance using this snapshot. I'm giving the instance name. So I'm going with the default configuration. I'm selecting my instance type. So as you see, once that snapshot is stored, it is encrypting. It is creating the instance with the encrypted keys only. For a safer side, we need to disable the minor version upgrade, or else it will upgrade the restart our server without notice. It will take 3 minutes of time for creating the instance. Approx based on the data size, it will get different. So let it create. We don't want to waste your valuable time. So once creation, we will see how to configure with the current master once the instance was created. Let's move to secret manager topic. So why we are going for a secret manager? So we need to protect our secret credential of database as well as application credentials, and with company data resources, we need to keep it as a safer side. We are using this secret manager services which is provided by AWS, and those credentials we can either rotate in a regular manner, and we can manage, and we can retrieve the credentials whenever we need the to use. So those secret keys also we can able to encrypt via KMS keys, and it is providing rotation policies as well. So it is managed by custom rotation days as well. If you want to make it as a rotation policies one day, we can do it. Let's see those slides in further. If you want to perform via CLI, then your AWS version should have greater than 1.15.8. So let's see how to create a secret manager for the database RDS. Here I have given my respective credential of webinar 9 instance, and I am encrypting the uh, secret manager which is created by KMS, and I am giving the database credentials. I'm giving the name as database credentials. So I am storing this details. As I mentioned earlier, we can choose the rotation intervals with the custom order. So here you can choose the option for the custom one. So once your key is created, you will get an option like this. So you need to click the left side arrow of secrets. Once you just click, you will get the respective secret manager which you have created. In this, how to view the secret keys in the console, we can see the configuration, how it is configured, like rotation body is enabled or not, and with respect to rotation interval, we can get it from here. And if you want to view the respective credentials which you have provided, you can get from retrieve secret values. So once you click this option, you have a plain text, it will provide the respective credentials of your instance. So if you want to perform via CLI, that describe configuration for the database credentials, you can use describe scripts option for viewing the credentials. So this is another option, like get the secret values. So you can get the values of the respective secret ID which you have created. Those credentials we can get from CLI itself. And it has a limitation of, it will upload only 20 KB of file size, and it will support get value of get value supports with the 1500 API per seconds. Up to that much we have able to pull from API calls. It is a paid version in AWS service. Respective cost I have mentioned here. So before moving to S3 encryption, let's see the instance is better or not for the encryption. It's available. Let me share my screen. So my instance is created. So once the instance is created, I am taking the respective credentials. I'm logging to the server. So is initiating connectivity for the new server. Let me show you about S3 encryption. You will see that hands-on further. So AS3 encryption provides two types of encryption, like server-side encryption as well as client-side encryption. Server-side encryption comes under three types. One is server-side encryption with S3, server-side encryption with KMS, and server-side encryption with customer. So S3 will have a encrypting the data using unique keys for the respect each objects, and additional advantage, it is encrypting those unique keys with the root keys which is managed by AWS, and those root keys will be regularly rotated by AWS service. So here we can't able to see the which key it was used for encryption because it is managed by AWS, and in KMS we can able to see which keys was it is used by AWS, and it is a customer one which we have created, and we can store this KMS key in console itself. An additional advantage, it is providing audit trail. So when the KMS key was created by whom and when the is modified, lastly modified, so those details we can able to get it. And in server-side encryption in customer, we can get the key managed. Key should be provided by customer, and it will be managed by customer only. So the customer is responsible for the keys. AWS will not store these keys in console. That encryption will be taken care by AWS service. So once we have provided the data with the keys, it will encrypt the data and it will store in S3 bucket. If you have keys lost, then we can't be able to get the data. So customer need to respond for the keys. In client-side encryption, we have two types of master keys. One is server-side master keys and client-side master keys. In server-side master keys, customer need to provide the data to store in AWS service, and the encryption will be managed by AWS. In client-side master keys, for each object, client need to provide one key for encryption, and it has been maintained by customer only. They need to taken care for the creating the keys, and an additional advantage, we need to root the key which is encrypted for the object with the root keys, and we can upload the encrypted keys as called as data keys. We can upload the data key to console as a metadata object. So even AWS don't aware which key was used for encryption for which objects. So it is more secure, but each key creating a key by respective object which is responsible for customer side. So let's see how to create encrypting the bucket, enabling the encryption. So here I am enabling the server-side encryption with the KMS keys with respect to screenshots. So I am uploading the data which I have created with the KMS key. I am uploading the data. So this is a CLI command for uploading the data with encryption. And with the console level, I am validating it whether it is encrypted or not. So it has encrypted with my you can see the default encryption is enabled, and my data is also uploaded. So thanks for your valuable time attending the meeting webinar. We are happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, hi. Hi everyone, this is Karthik here. So by this we come to the Q&A session. Thank you, Praveen, and thank you, Madhavan. So there is a question by from Amit Vodka. While creating a new RDS instance, is it possible to enable encryption? So, yeah, Madhavan and Praveen, you can answer it.
So, hi Amit, thanks for the question you have asked. So while creating encryption, we can get with the different encryption. We can get with the KMS keys, but for it is reading a fresh server or any snapshots.
It's about creating a fresh server or creating a new RDS instance. It's a new and a fresh server.
While creating new
Yeah.
instance, we can enable the encryptions.
Okay. So Amit has one more question also. I think he posted in the general session. In security group, is it possible to control the inbound and outbound access? And
Yeah.
Is it possible to control only the inbound access and outbound access is open to all?
Yeah,
Let me
Amit,
un-
yeah. So let me answer for that. So yeah, Amit, we can do that. We can do a restriction in the inbound as well as we have a open in outbound. But as a standard one, it is not a suggestible one. Yes, if you are going with the EC2 means anyone can give outbound to any of the servers. So we should have restricted both both inbound and outbound restriction. We should have. But yeah, it is possible to have separate inbound and outbound.
Yeah, Amit, you have any more questions? I have unmuted you also. Okay.
Yeah. So now that we have completed the 9th edition of my webinar, it has been an honor to be among such accomplished individuals and to be able to present our perspective in front of you all. Thank you for being here today and patiently listening to what we had to say. I wish you a blessed day and prosperous new year ahead.